always do that. I'm a night rider. Every time that I call past midnight, I swear I get higher. Swear I gotta get higher now. I'm a night rider. Every time that I give what I got, I supply that fire. I supply that fire.
What's going on, bookworms, and welcome back to another episode of Bookmarks with Bump, the social commentary podcast where the host sits down and goes over threads that he's compiled on the greatest app of all time, Twitter. He's compiled these threads and bookmarked them, thinking one day he'll have time to sit and scroll through his phone all day, but that's never quite what he does. He is too busy being a state of Connecticut certified journeyman. After completing his apprentice, he is too busy winning medals, being a certified road dog in road races all over the northeastern states, a certified personal trainer accredited by the National Academy of Sports Medicine. Too busy doing all of those things to sit down and read. However, what he's not too busy to do is share his expertise with you on all of the various topics that he's bookmarked throughout the ages. These threads to help boost your self-esteem by getting you motivated and active. These threads to help you take your mind off the world's chaos by it just being something ridiculously funny. Or a thread to help you focus on the world's chaos in order to help you remain grounded and remain stable in this ever-changing world. But what's changing for me is right now my activity has lowered. I'm just lifting weights. I'm just riding bike. I'm just doing elliptical. Because right now I am in physical therapy. 2 weeks into physical therapy here. Tomorrow we're going to try something new. But as of late, there's been a lot of ice, a lot of heat, a lot of stretching, and a lot of movements. It's nice to have somebody there to help aid you in these kinds of things. It's what a personal trainer is perfect for, is to help correct you with your form. But we've done cupping and we've done the tens unit. I've shocked the shit out of my leg. I have been through the ringer, some would say. I'm getting scraped and raked, just trying to help inhibit that myofascial release and trying to help the healing process any way we can, by introducing more blood flow, which is a thing with the lower extremities and why sometimes you have an injury that lingers a little bit longer. That's the last place that the blood in your body travels from your heart. And that's a long way to go for a long guy like me. I'm just a long boy out here trying to get some blood to my feet. It doesn't happen that often, but at least I still got them. So we're working through that. Tomorrow we'll do some dry needling to help intensify the way that muscle tightens up. It's supposed to make the muscle tense, bring all of the Z lines together, and then boom, inhibit that myofascial release that we're looking for and free up some of that inflammation. I've noticed that the inflammation has gone down over the past couple of weeks, so that is a plus. I'm not out there running yet, but one day I will be. I'm not too worried about when or how that happens. I know that it's going to come, and I'm just determined to get there. Nothing's changed on that front. But when we get to the NFL, a lot has changed on that front, because as if you weren't confused enough after last week, Week 6 had a whole lot of I've come to some conclusions after watching the Week 6 games last week. Justin Fields might be underpaid. Now, yes, he took 7 sacks, but watching that game, he was scrambling for his life all morning or all night if you were out there, because that game came on at 9:30 a.m. It was across the pond. I'd like to take this moment to apologize now that I have this platform here. I'd really like to apologize to the people of England. The NFL is much better than what we showed you last Sunday. We flew these teams out there expecting them to give their best, and it didn't really seem to be that way. Although the Broncos did nab 7 sacks, which is a great stat, I don't know. Justin Fields is massively overpaid. There's no chance for him to throw inside that pocket. And everybody can talk about how he had negative yards in the first half, but it's not entirely his fault. He does hold on to the ball a little bit too long. He does get a little bit nervous. I do agree on those fronts, but he has no offensive line. And it's actually a great thing that they went and signed him, because I don't know what people expected having Aaron Rodgers behind that line. He's scrambling for his life, and they did have one gleaming bright side throughout this game. The New York Jets did. They did nab their first turnover of the season. So everybody, a round of applause for the New York Jets getting their first turnover by way of fumble during the Broncos' opening drive. But that was pretty much their highlight of the game. The rest of it was just a squeaking grinding halt. And they had a lead there in the final minutes. They had 11 points without scoring one single touchdown. They got a safety in the game due to a penalty, but still the Broncos managed to pull the rug and take the victory from the Jets. Bo Nix didn't have his best game, but he did get his team down to the goal zone, down at the end of the wire, and help them kick a field goal to seal the victory and come back to America victorious. However, both those teams are losers, and I am embarrassed that that's the game we decided to play in England. Hopefully the Rams and the Jaguars bring their A game, because the former two teams didn't. Anyway, moving on, the Chargers barely squeaked by the Dolphins, which is making me wonder what's going on here. Now, yes, they were able to formulate a game-winning drive at the game, but did you just hear that? They had to formulate a game-winning drive against the 1-5 Dolphins. So yeah, the Chargers barely squeaked by the Dolphins. They snapped their 2-game losing streak, but there's some serious concerns if you ask me. There's still a lot of penalty issues with the offensive line, and the Dolphins are a poopy team right now. So for the Chargers to need a last-second field goal, it says a lot. Derwin James' interception in the final seconds was the turnaround of the season. That and the swing of Cameron Dicker's leg. Hopefully they wake back up and play like they did in the first 3 weeks, or we're going to be looking at the same old Chargers situation. For a decade now, it seems like that the Chargers have just wasted talent and found a way to lose at the end of every game, which that's not winning football. Obviously, you're losing at the end of every game, but they've always had to, like, look at Phillip Rivers, a guy who had an incredible career. Some would argue a Hall of Fame career, but he never even had a chance in the playoffs. And he had LaDainian Tomlinson by his side. He had Antonio Gates on his team. Like, there's always a chance for the Chargers, but there's always some sort of mismanagement. Very interesting there. Mismanagement. We could talk about mismanagement with the Colts. They mismanaged the last couple of years, but they're correcting their ship, and they got a win this week over the Cardinals. Now the Cardinals, they were taking it to the Colts. It looked like a game that the Colts probably could have lost, with Jacoby Brissett coming in a revenge game of sorts, playing against one of his former teams. He took over for the Cardinals at quarterback, threw for over 300 yards, and pushed his former team to the brink. They barely squeaked by. Squawk by, I almost said. Is squawk a word? I don't think so, but they did squeak by there. The Cardinals. Cardinals is interesting. They're an interesting team. It seems like for the last 3-4 years we've been waiting for them to emerge as the team that they're supposed to be. And although they looked great against the Colts, if Jacoby Brissett is playing long term, I don't think that plays out well for the Cardinals. A backup quarterback always gets a nice little boost there in their first game, but after that, the tape is kind of out, and you know what their tendencies are, and they're a backup for a reason. And the Cardinals are a poopy team for a reason. Now, let's talk about a team that might not be so poopy after all. The Panthers might have a squad. Carolina upsets the Cowboys, but more importantly, they win their second in a row after starting 1-3. They now sit at 3-3 with Xavier Legette and Teteroa McMillan flanking on the outside. Finally getting some good looks here, but they're both hitting their strides at the same exact time as a man is making an extreme impact, and that is Rico Dowdle, who's covered 450 yards from the scrimmage line in the last 2 games. Rico Dowdle comes out of nowhere and just smacks the NFL in his face. Now, granted, he did just play the 2 worst run defenses in the league, in the Dolphins and the Cowboys, but 450 yards for anybody that's a massive feat. Round of applause for Rico. Shout out Uncle Rico, getting out there and having a revenge game for generations against the Cowboys. Dave Canales has the Queen City buzzing right now, and we may have found a star in Charlotte in Rico Dowdle. See what I did there? He used to be a Cowboy, star in the helmet. He's playing a Charlotte. They're beating the teams that they should, okay, which separates them from the pack. And what that means is, like, when you're a good team, you go into games expecting to win. And sometimes that will dictate the way you play the game. You might play it more conservatively. You might keep the wrinkles in your play sheet all tucked in and folded. You don't want to reveal your hand too much because you want to save that for the real competition. And they've beaten the Dolphins, the Cowboys, and the Falcons. Now, when I say the Falcons are a team that they should beat, what I mean is that they're a division rival and they play them twice a year. They have to get one over them. But they did shut out the Falcons 30-0, which is a great show of the team they could potentially be. Like I said, Xavier Legette, Tedero McMillan, you have Chuba Hubbard, who's on IR right now, but Rico Dowdle stepping in and making a major impact. This team has weapons. This team has a chance to be an effective offense in their defense. It's what's carried them over the last few years. We've been kind of waiting for what's going to happen there at that quarterback position. And for the Panthers organization to stay behind Bryce Young for these last 3 seasons, and yeah, put him through the ringer a little bit last year, benching him after starting him in his rookie year, I think it's a great way to develop a player. I think he's taken this all in stride. I think being coached by Nick Saban in the past probably has helped him with his ability to take these hits on the chin and just keep moving forward. Like, that's a lot of times, so often that happens in the NFL, where you bench a quarterback and they lose all confidence in themselves and their abilities. Bryce Young took it. He said, I understand the assignment. And now he's coming in and winning games for the Carolina Panthers. 3 wins. I mean, that's almost as many as they've won in the last 2 seasons. But Drake May is generational. Okay. What more can I say about that? Patriots put a beating on the Saints. He's like, thanks. I want to thank Gerard Mayo and Robert Kraft for drafting Drake May and handing him on a silver platter to Mike Vrabel. This team just looks really good right now. And another player that I'll just highlight right here is Jackson Smith-Njigba with 7 catches and 160 yards and a touchdown when the Seahawks beat the dog. Let me just stop the sentence right here because I don't want to get too explicit with it. But the Seahawks just absolutely demolishing competition and looking like a great football team with Sam Darnold and Jackson Smith-Njigba. Coming into this game, he already had 700 receiving yards. He's on pace to record 2,100 receiving yards if he plays the way he is all year. And who knows? He could be an MVP. He's a possible MVP at this point, even though it'll probably go to a quarterback like Baker Mayfield, because Baker baked again. After a 3rd and 14 scramble, okay, this guy he has his back up against the wall. He's playing with an offensive line that's banged up. They got pieces over here from over here and over there from over there, and they're moving everybody around. This guy comes in on a 3rd and 14, and he scrambles for the first down and gets right up. He dives for the first down like a running back. He sticks his hand out. He's a winner. He has that drive. He has that will. He has the will of Brady. He's taking over what Brady put down there in Tampa, what Brady built here in New England. I mean, Baker Mayfield is emerging as the greatest quarterback in the NFL right now. You can't name me another quarterback playing better than Baker Mayfield right now, when the pressure's on or when it's not. And there was no pressure this week. They handedly beat the San Francisco 49ers. They not hurt like maliciously, but they did get to Mac Jones and make his day very difficult. The Buccaneers is just a complete team right now, and they are, in fact, a Super Bowl contender coming out of that NFC South division. They just look so good right now, sitting at 5-1. Baker, I mean, he runs for that 3rd and 14, and then immediately after, he catches another rookie, Montez Walker, out of North Carolina, down the seam. Montez Walker had to transfer out of North Carolina because of their eligibility restrictions, even though they can hand people paper bags of money nowadays with the NIL, even though they were doing that already anyway. But anyway, this guy, whatever, he doesn't need college. He's in the NFL now. He just runs right down the seam from the slot position and catches the lower third of the ball. And what I mean by that is the ball was coming down, and he grabbed it just like this, and it hit his hands So he knew he had to catch it. Touchdown, Buccaneers, walk away, victorious. We've got another train chugging along the tracks right now, and that is the Buffalo Bills. Did the Patriots break them last week? Because Josh Allen was extremely frustrated playing the Falcons. They brought so much pressure, and they got to him time after time on Monday Night Football. It kind of made it impossible for the Bills offense to operate. Meanwhile, Bijan Robinson emerges into stardom with 170 yards on the ground. And then on top of that, he had 60 yards receiving and a touchdown. So the Bills, they dropped these 2 games in a row after starting undefeated against teams with a combined 2 wins. Anyway, did the Patriots break them, like I mentioned last week, or are the Falcons just that good? The Falcons defense, they have pieces all over the field, and they were plastering the Bills wide receivers, which is a touch on what's going on with the Bills right now. They don't necessarily have everything together, okay? They're kind of beat up right now. They don't have a true number 1 wide receiver that draws the ire of the defense. So everybody's able to play good coverage and send more pressure at Josh Allen and either make him scramble and run for his life and, be very successful at it, which he is, or have him go down in the pocket, which happened time and time again last night. By the way, Michael Penix, the pink do-rag, you can't do that, man. You look like a cock on the field. The first NFL quarterback with a cock head to win in prime time. I'm getting that stat in just now. But that's got to be an NFL fine or something. That just looked ridiculous. Another thing that looked ridiculous is Ben Johnson. We all wrote off the Bears after 2 weeks of NFL football. I feel like a lot of us were just saying the Bears are going to bear. And it turns out they might have a squad here. Caleb Williams looked more composed than he ever had before. This is the thing that stood out to me through Monday Night Football. He didn't seem like he was risking too much, and his arm talent was on full display, and it looks like he's starting to buy in to what Ben Johnson is selling. And it's starting to make Caleb Williams look like the player that Lincoln Riley promised us. The rain did seem to bother Jaden Daniels as they had some fumbling issues throughout the game, but they also had some issues over the last couple of weeks where they've now been without Debo Samuels and Terry McLaurin. So Daniels kind of had to throw the ball to himself and Zach Ertz out there. There was really no match for the heat that Ben Johnson was throwing. The Chicago Bears defense ability to get after the quarterback was on full display in this one as well. The Bears with a commanding win. I mean, both of these games upset me. Both of these games were upsets in general, if you ask me. And that's how Week 6 went. Both of these teams that were expected to win in primetime just did not. And it happened on Sunday, too. The Lions and the Chiefs. Now, here on full display, you'll actually see Juju Smith doing an impression of the Lions after what the Chiefs had done to them. The Chiefs really took it to the Lions on Sunday Night Football, and it brings more surprise for me. This is exactly what I'm talking about when I say just when you thought we were confused. What the hell is going on with the Chiefs? They look great against the Ravens. They look bad against the Jaguars. They look great against the Lions. They're beating the teams that they should have tough games against. I don't really know. But with this win over the Lions, it kind of propels the Chiefs back into a playoff idea. Now here, there are definitely some implications from this Juju Smith display of great impressionism. But Brian Branch kind of freaked out after the game and just beat up Juju. They did have a contentious meeting a few times throughout the field. Juju hit him with a kind of a crack block in the back. And I guess he thought that was kind of cheap, Brian Branch did, so he really took it on him. The glaring subject after this last week is kind of the talk of the 2024 draft class. You have Jaden Daniels, Drake May, and Caleb Williams, and Daniels barely gets spoken of as much as May and Williams these last few weeks, even though he made it to the NFC Championship game last year. It's all about May and Williams, and I think that's because they're kind of the cornerstone of their respective teams. Jaden Daniels, I mean, he's a franchise cornerback as well, but that whole team was in a rebuild, and they came on as a surprise. People were definitely putting a lot more on the shoulders of Drake May and Caleb Williams. The main differences to me are the differences that sit behind the ears. I just think that Caleb Williams knows how physically talented he is, and he's so aware of that sometimes it forces him into some bad decisions. Last night he threw a very questionable ball across his body on the run into traffic, and it did hit the hands of his receivers. So I mean, you kind of got to give it to him. But that's taken a huge risk, and he is a major gunslinger, where I think Drake May is like a student of the game, and he uses every ability he in the field give him, not just himself. The way he uses a sideline when he's throwing the ball and putting the ball in a spot that only the receiver can get to it, he uses the sideline as a teammate. The same way a lot of defenses try to coach cornerbacks into using the sideline as a teammate. And I just think that's special. That's a really special ability, and you see it in people like Pat Mahomes and Josh Allen, and those are the generational quarterbacks that we have on runs right now. So it really gives me hope for what Drake May can do, especially with where we're at right now. First place in the AFC East, and that is huge. And that is a credit to Mike Vrabel and the coaching staff that he put together up there in New England. And speaking of coaching staffs and Mike Vrabel, we have our first firing of the season. Head coach Brian Callahan of the Tennessee Titans, who was hired to replace Mike Vrabel, is now unemployed after 6 weeks of the season. After the Titans dropped the game to the Raiders, which was a game I thought they were going to win, but they didn't. I didn't hit them all last week. We know that. We know that right now. And unfortunately, I have to report that we've dropped to 12-10 so far this season, which means I'm due. Last week in the work pool, picking all games, I went 10-5. Okay? And we need to get this record back right. So what are we going to do? We're going to pick every single game of the slate. That's right. We're going to pick every single game of the Week 6 slate, and we're going to start with the proverbial Unk Bowl, people are calling it. Joe Flacco and Aaron Rodgers will face off against each other at a combined 82 years old, which is the oldest quarterback battle of all time, I'm pretty sure. So, hey, shout out to them. But yeah, it'll be a miracle for Joe Flacco to make it out of Cincinnati without children, because he is getting banged around with no protection out there. The Bengals have no line, and Flacco is not as mobile, or it's just, I'm trying to find the nicest way to say he's old, but he's just not as mobile as he once was. So it's hard for him to escape that traffic. Aaron Rodgers and the Pittsburgh Steelers go on the road on Thursday against Cincinnati. They're going to head into the jungle and play Cincinnati, and I don't really see a way that Cincinnati wins another game until Joe Burrow's back, because it's not just their offensive line, it's also their defense. They haven't gotten any better in that regard. Then we move to across the pond, the LA Rams and the Jacksonville Jaguars. Both teams here are in a get-back spot. The Rams not so much, however, because they did win over the Ravens. They just had a really poor offensive showing. 17 points. Not really playing up to par. However, their defense, they're not dealing with a lot of issues. They're not really that banged up. Jacksonville is very familiar with playing overseas. They've played in London almost every single year that they've played over there, but there really is no home field advantage. I think this is game-recognized game here, and this is a Matthew Stafford game. He's going to go across the pond. He's going to throw for 300 yards. Puka Nacua is going to catch 1 or 2 touchdowns. They're going to show off all their shiny toys, and it's going to be a game where McVay has to play a good game because he's playing against a team that has a lot behind it right now. Chicago. Oh, and the Saints go marching into Chicago. They are marching into a loss, hands down. Chicago showed what it was last week, and the Saints are the worst team in the NFC. Spencer Rattler is showing signs of good quarterbacking, I guess, but yeah, I mean, they just cannot put a drive or a defensive stop together whenever they need it. And they're most definitely going to need it because Caleb Williams is playing his A game right now, and I think he's just starting to hit his stride, and he wants to be great. This is a guy whose lock screen was Tom Brady's career stats, so that's what he's aiming for. This is a perfect chance for him to stat pad just a little bit. Miami is going to Cleveland. Now, this one's a tough one to call. Dylan Gabriel didn't look that great against the Steelers, but the Dolphins' defense is a lot softer than that. I think Myles Garrett is going to make Tua Tagovailoa's life hell that day, and I think Dylan Gabriel is going to get his first win as an NFL quarterback, so I'm going with Cleveland. New England at Tennessee. Mike Vrabel revenge game, New England. Las Vegas at Kansas City. Kansas City. Las Vegas, they won last week, but they played the Tennessee Titans. Las Vegas has... Gino just can't stop throwing picks, and the heat is on for Kansas City, so they got to win that one. Another team that's got to win is Philadelphia, but can they? Offensive line is banged up. They didn't look that great against the New York Giants. They came out kind of flat, to be honest, and the ball placement just wasn't there. The effort just wasn't there. It seemed like they went into that game like, oh, this is a game we're going to win sleepwalking through, but they didn't. They can't do that with Minnesota, not with Carl Wentz. I think this is a good chance for a good game out of Carson Wentz here. But he does not respond to pressure well, and I'm pretty sure that Jalen Carter is going to play in this game because the turf in Minnesota is a lot better than MetLife. What a weird reason to call your player out of a game for. Carolina at the Jets, Carolina. Giants at Denver. The Giants are playing with a bit of moxie here, and Denver does have that travel back from England. But the Giants also haven't won 2 in a row since Jackson Dart has started. And they should have beat the Saints. They shouldn't have beat the Eagles, though. I don't think they should beat Denver. Sean Payton against a rookie quarterback. Give me Denver. Indianapolis at the LA Chargers. Indy is so hot right now. Travarius Ward got clipped in pregame warm-ups, and so did Anthony Richardson. Even with evil spirits lurking over their team last week, they pulled out a win against the Cardinals. They'll do it against the Chargers, who are notorious for shooting themselves in the foot, as we spoke about earlier. Washington, a get-back win here against Dallas. Dallas's defense just isn't there. It has nothing to do with them losing to the Panthers, but it has everything to do with their defense just lacking in their ability to stop the run. And then making Bryce Young look really good. Imagine what Jaden Daniels going to do on Sunday. Green Bay at Arizona. Give me Green Bay. Green Bay is a team that's supposed to win here, so they oughta. And then you have Atlanta at San Francisco for the 8:20 p.m. game. Atlanta's run game just looks so good, and they're dominating the defensive line. And I think they're going to do that to San Francisco as well because San Francisco's super banged up. When the Niners lost Nick Bosa, I talked about how I have faith in the Niners as long as Fred Warner is on the field, and now he's not. He's gone. And the heart of that team is missing. And I think Atlanta is hitting a stride that, their defense is clicking on all cylinders. They get rid of Young Koo, and we think, oh no, what's going on with the special teams? Well, they're clicking on all cylinders. And San Francisco's just banged up. Mac Jones is a starting quarterback in this league, I believe. So I can't really say that Atlanta's going to pick them apart, but they kind of picked apart Josh Allen. So what are they going to do here in San Francisco? Atlanta's going to pull out a win. That's what. And then you have Tampa Bay at Detroit Monday. Once again, with these 2 games on Monday night, I really don't get it. It's really terrible. I really hate it. But Detroit's playing at home, and unfortunately, one of these teams has to lose. I love them both. I love the Lions, and I love the Buccaneers. I love them this season. This is going to be a great matchup. I almost don't even want to pick this game because of how good these 2 teams are and how fun they are to watch. I do think it's going to be a shootout. Now, Tampa Bay is playing so hurt and so banged up right now, but their defense is all there. Detroit has all their weapons, though. And I think that'll be the edge to put them over in this game. They took a tough loss to the Kansas City Chiefs. They're going to want to get back. And Tampa Bay and Baker are in unfamiliar territory here in Detroit. So I have to give the edge to the Lions there, and we'll pick them. And the last game is Houston at Seattle. Seattle. I mean, I'm not sold on Houston after them coming back and starting the season so poorly, and then coming back and dropping 40 on the Ravens. I need more than that for me to believe in your team. Seattle has it all. Their defense is humming. Their offense is unbelievable. Charbonnet and Kenneth Walker are great. And they open up the play action so well for Sam Darnold, which is what he's so good at. And then you have Jackson Smith and Jigba running across the field, seemingly always open. It has to be Seattle. So all 15 games this week are being picked and being monitored on the record, which we are now 12-10. But after Pittsburgh, LA, Chicago, Cleveland, New England, Kansas City, Philadelphia, Carolina, Denver, Indianapolis, Washington, Green Bay, Atlanta, Detroit, and Seattle all win, we will then be 27-10, and that record sounds great to me. Another record that sounds great to me are all of the records that Tom Brady kept. As a fan, as you see here, of the New England Patriots, I grew up with Tom Brady, and Tom Brady is the subject of today's first thread, which is really just a tweet. And it was put out here by Billy Oppenheimer. Billy Oppenheimer has a little excerpt here about Tom Brady. Because after his second year at Michigan, Tom Brady wanted to transfer. He wasn't playing in games, and he was so low on the depth chart that he only got 2 reps in practice. Brady met with his coach to express his frustration. The other quarterbacks get all the reps, and the coach replied, "Brady, I want you to stop worrying about what all the other players on your team are doing. All you do is worry about what the starter is doing, what the second guy is doing, what everyone else is doing. You don't worry about what you're doing." And the coach reminded him, "You came here to be the best. If you're going to be the best, you have to beat out the best." And then he recommended that Brady start seeing Greg Harden, a sports psychologist who worked in Michigan's athletic department. Brady went to Harden's office and whined, "I'm never going to get my chance. They're only giving me 2 reps. And Harden simply replied, "Just go out there and focus on doing the best you can with those 2 reps. Make them as perfect as you possibly can." "So that's what I did," Brady said. "They put me in for those 2 reps, man. I'd sprint out there like it was Super Bowl 39. Let's go, boys. Here we go. What play we got?" And I started to do really well with those 2 reps because I brought enthusiasm and I brought energy. Soon, it went from getting 2 reps to getting 4, and then from 4 to 10. And before you know it, Brady said, with this new mindset that Greg instilled in me, to focus on whatever you can control, to focus on what you're getting, and not what anyone else is getting, to treat every rep like it's the Super Bowl. Eventually, I became the starter. I have a takeaway from that, and that's basically to just stop worrying about what other people are growing in your garden. This is an analogy I used at work to somebody I work with the other day. There are a lot of things that you can point out to get frustrated about in life, period. Not just in your endeavors athletically or your career even. You could be looking all around and get frustrated by what people are doing. But what they're doing doesn't matter. That's what they're growing in their garden. What you're doing in your garden, that's what matters. If what somebody else is doing is affecting what grows in your garden, that's one thing that you should be able to worry about. But as long as your garden looks good and you're watering your grass, don't look around for problems. Don't let them come to you. However, Billy Oppenheimer's first takeaway was Greg Harden telling Brady to just focus on being great during his 2 reps. It reminded me of a piece of advice from the entrepreneur Mark Cuban. "People come to me all the time and they tell me they're stuck," Cuban explained. "They're stuck in a job they don't like. They're stuck working for a boss they don't like. They're stuck on a team they don't like. I just tell them, be great. The reality of life is that you can't just always quit your job. You can't just always go to your boss and say, give me the promotion or I'm out of here. You can't just always go to your coach and say, give me more reps or I'm transferring. So when you're stuck, you've got to find it within yourself to say, okay, this is where I am. And if I'm going to be here, I'm going to be great. Because if you're great at your job, typically other people and companies find out. So it creates opportunities. Takeaway number 2. Billy's written before about lead measures, the actions and behaviors that predictably drive success. The core characteristic of a lead measure, the offers of the 4 disciplines of education, right, is that a lead measure is influenceable. It can be directly influenced by you. To achieve your goals, they recommend echoing what the Michigan coach told Brady, to apply a disproportionate energy to the things that are in your control. Starting at Michigan and for the rest of his career, that's what Brady did, and that's what drove his success. In his first media call after he was selected by the New England Patriots with the 199th pick of the 2000 draft, Brady was asked, "Are you aware that along with starting quarterback Drew Bledsoe, there's another quarterback here that they drafted last year?" Brady said he was aware of that, and I know he's a heck of a player, but I've always really concerned myself just with the things I can control. I don't put a lot of thinking into the other guys because I know I'm not at my best when I'm not just thinking about playing as well as I possibly can. I never once in my life ever said I wanted to be the best of all time. Ever. I wanted to be the best I could be. Period. I learned that in college. It didn't matter what the other guys were doing. It mattered what I was doing. There he is. Michigan Tom. Came from the cold. You know what doesn't come from the cold? Let's get heated up here with Coach Kev. Your abs. They're not made in the cold. And they aren't made in the kitchen. Just like your biceps, they're a muscle that needs to be trained. Below are the 5 exercises you need to do to get a sculpted core and 6-pack abs. And here it displays all the different sections of the abdomen. The rectus abdominis, the serratus anterior, otherwise known as your gills or your obliques, your linea alba, the outline in between the ab, the external oblique, the bottom piece of your core that builds up into your back, and the umbilicus, the lower section of your abs. That is a 6-pack there. Well, yeah, it's like an 8-pack, so shout out to the serratus anterior. Love a good set of gills. A strong, good-looking core can be achieved in 5 minutes. Just 5 minutes a day, but guess what? If you're going to try a day or 2 and give up, you're not going to see any progress, obviously. Willing to commit? Then you have my personal guarantee that you'll see amazing results, so let's begin. The number 1 exercise would be the weighted side bends. It targets the obliques and the serratus, your gills and your sides. You could do these with a dumbbell, kettlebell, or try holding a plate. The key is you let your obliques lift the weight. Don't raise your arm whatsoever. Aim for 3 sets of 15 reps per side and increase weight as it gets easier. Number 2 would be toe touches. The targets are the upper abs. The goal here is to keep your arms and legs straight the entire time. Use your core to bring your hands to and from your feet and hold the plate in your hand to increase difficulty. Number 3 is a barn burner. Love these. Russian twists. Targets the obliques. Targets the whole abdominal section, to be honest. For beginners, you could start with your legs bent and your feet on the ground. For intermediate, legs bent and your feet in the air. And for experts, legs bent, feet in the air, holding weight. There's always a modification to make an exercise more effective and more difficult. But the goal is to keep your legs straight in front of you and aim for 3 sets of 30 reps total or 3 30-second bursts. That's kind of what I do with exercises like that or with flutter kicks. Number 4 would be a straight leg raise. Lay flat on your back with your arms to your side, and the only movement you should have here is your legs. Tighten your core on the way down to slow movement and increase that tension. Aim for 3 sets of 15 reps and increase your time under tension as necessary. Then you have number 5, the kneeling cable crunch. Proper form is critical with this movement. Start with super lightweight and focus on utilizing the muscles in your ab to move. Don't just move your skeleton, as with every exercise. Increase the weight once you've got the form down. 2 sets of 8 to 10 strong reps is plenty. So that's how you get absolutely shredded. What else do we have here? Let's go off. Let's start our Sundays with some celebrations here. That sounds like a great plan to me. This was from 2023, one of the first threads I ever bookmarked, so this is a throwback here. We're only 7 games into the season, and the NFL has dished out $13 million in fines. The most frustrating being touchdown celebrations. Stop the fines so we can bring these iconic moments back. It's a thread of videos, so let's zoom in and check them out. The proposal, Chad Ochocinco's finest work. She said yes. He proposed to a cheerleader. I figured this was happening every week. The hidden Sharpie. Terrell Owens. He was playing with a Sharpie in his sock. That's what I think the most impressive thing about this celebration is. That's why you have to commend this one. Then he throws it into the stands for a fan. What a moment. The hidden phone. T.O. paved the way for Joe Horn's masterpiece. It's the younger, funnier brother of the hidden Sharpie. He catches the touchdown, lifts up the goalpost, and there's a cell phone hidden underneath that he calls his boy for. Get your popcorn ready. Popcorn straight to the eyeballs. T.O.'s most iconic moment in Dallas. He missed his mouth completely. Get your popcorn ready. The bucket jump. Salvation Army received 850,000 in donations after this Ezekiel Elliott touchdown, but he was fined $13.2K after he jumps in the Salvation Army pot. I remember when this happened. Incredible. The way he just leaps right in. Man, shout out to Zeke. Target practice. Brandon Jacobs. Brandon Jacobs was such a dog, man. Like, he was huge. 6'3", 250 pounds. Fast as lightning and could run anybody over. Are we not going to get it here? Can we get a timeout here? He threw it directly into the shot clock. Or the play clock. Why'd he do that? Post hugger. Peak Antonio Brown. He was fined $11.5K for this. Oh, man, that had to have hurt. Just shook Pat McAfee. Returns the punt to the end zone, and then look at what he does. Oh, this guy never thought straight. Why would you ever do that? You have a crossbar jam here. Many took the part, but nobody threw it down like Jimmy Graham, the most interesting NFL veteran of all time. Oh, the two-hand slam from Jimmy. The NFL banned touching the post after he bent it in 2014. Unbelievable. Jimmy Graham, yeah, he's gone on to do great things after his NFL career. He sailed around the world. Substitute camera crew. Tyreek wasn't the first to pull this, but he's the first I've seen go into the actual crowd to film, and the NFL fined him $10,200. What an electric factory Tyreek Hill is. Stone Cold Diggs. $13,600 for this masterclass of celebration. What a dog. Yeah, man. Yeah, man. That's it. I hope we all have some fun touchdown celebrations that we watched today. Another beautiful Sunday. As always, Bookmarks with Bump is dropping every Sunday at 4 a.m., so you know what's up when you are. Follow me everywhere you can. You know where to find me. I'm on Twitter at Bump of TTS. I'm on TikTok at bookmarkswbump. You can hit my email if you need any help with personal training or if you have any threads you'd like to suggest at bookmarkswbump@gmail.com. And as always, the threads are linked in the description if you want to check them out for yourself. And as always, it is all love. God bless.
I always do that. I'm a night rider. Every time that I call past midnight, I swear I get higher. Swear I gotta get higher now. I'm a night rider. Every time that I give what I got, I supply that fire. I supply that fire.